Hello again, I am Blunty. Hey, so here's a thing I thought was cool until I noticed it was announced on April Fool's Day, and then I decided to keep my mouth shut about it. The ASUS ROG Ally. ASUS's supposed entry into the accelerated market of full-fledged handheld gaming PCs. A market that's been around for, well, quite a lot of years now, really, but has only really gained any meaningful traction or mainstream attention, or a sense of legitimacy even, instead of feeling sort of gimmicky and super niche, thanks almost exclusively to Valve's Steam Deck. A device itself, I think it's hard to deny, owes its own success and even existence at all to Nintendo, showing the world that a mainstream gaming device compromised by being both handheld and big screen is indeed something consumers will flock to, if the experience is good and the games are there. Looking at you, mobile gaming. And well now, here we are, a couple of days after the April Fool's Day announcement of the ROG Ally, and yes, now confirmed, it is indeed a real device. So real, in fact, that ASUS have even already put engineering samples in the hands of at least a few influencer types to help push the marketing train along, including Dave 2D here, who, frankly, I have never heard of. Is he a big deal? Seems like he might be a big deal if he's getting this kind of attention. But the official ASUS ROG Twitter account retweeted his stuff into my timeline, so that's where I saw it. Now, even though it was announced on April Fool's, I did suspect that it was just part of the marketing plan for a real product. There was simply too much production work put into the announcement video for it to be a simple joke. Also, it didn't seem like a joke, like there was no punchline, there was no stupid feature that was like, oh lol, here's the giveaway. Also, there was a whole bunch of other people's IP and trademarks in the promotional video thing, and not just games either, but AMD and Best Buy, something that would also be a difficult thing to push through like the legal team for the purposes of an April Fool's Day joke. And it's not the first time a company has used April Fool's Day as a stunt to announce a real product, the idea being to get a bunch of people tweeting about it, oh, if this was real, I'd buy it, lol, and you know, all that kind of crap, and getting perhaps more engagement than they would otherwise have because people are talking about it, whether or not it is a joke or it's not a joke, and arguments about its veracity and all that kind of stuff. Frankly, I find it tiresome when companies do that with April Fool's Day. I find April Fool's Day tiresome in general. I don't think a whole day dedicated to tricking people with lies is a particularly enjoyable thing. It might just be my artistic brain reacting against dishonesty, which has always been a thing for me, but whatever. People are dumb, and it works, and it keeps working year after year, and so we'll see the same thing next year again, I suppose. But here we are this year, though. We know little about the hard facts of the device so far, like specifics on hardware configuration, or configurations, if there's more than one. But what we do know is this. ASUS are claiming it will have double the performance of Steam Deck, which, without any kind of context about testing conditions or which games or which applications or battery life or any useful context at all, not even settings, that's a completely meaningless thing to say. That is just a marketing bullet point. It means nothing right now. We also know it'll be running Windows 11, not SteamOS like the Steam Deck does, which means a couple of things. Firstly, it means 100% game compatibility across everything from everyone. The Steam Deck has been very popular, and it's moved the needle on Linux compatibility for games in a way nothing else ever has done. But the fact is, every single time a higher profile game launches, there is the question of when, or if even, Steam Deck players can actually run the game. What's the Steam Deck compatibility like? What's the performance like? Do you have to do any fiddling? It's a whole big thing, and that's just for games that are actually on Steam natively to begin with, never mind anything else. Under Windows, though, and as annoying as that is, you do at least get easy and seamless access to everything. Really. Steam, Epic, GOG, even right down to custom launches, they all just work because Windows is the de facto monopoly. It has to work there. And of course, being Windows-based, it does open the door a lot wider to non-gaming tasks on this device. It won't be a replacement for a laptop for many things, of course. It's just not the form factor that makes it appropriate for that, or even the screen resolution, but we'll get to that. But the extra flexibility of Windows sitting underneath it brings a big bonus for some stuff when people are traveling, for example. I wonder if I could edit videos on this thing. How well is this thing going to run DaVinci Resolve? Under the hood, though, is supposedly a new AMD custom hardware configuration running an APU combining a Zen 4 CPU architecture and RDNA 3 GPU guts. We know nothing about the core configurations, whatever, on any of this stuff. That's literally all we know about the APU, but it is, current generation of the technology, and AMD are doing fantastic things with power and power efficiency on this side of things, so it should be pretty damn good. Very promising. The screen is 7 inches, exactly like the Steam Deck's, but it is higher resolution and brighter, bringing 1080p and 500 nits of brightness versus the 800p and 400 nits of brightness the Steam Deck touts. But let's put that into a different perspective. The total pixel count on the Steam Deck's 1280 by 800 screen is 1,024,000 pixels. A 1920 by 1080 screen has 2,073,600 pixels. That is just shy of 68% more pixels, which also puts the claimed twice the performance of Steam Deck marketing statement into a fresh perspective also, doesn't it? Because games will not be running twice as well on this thing as they do on the Steam Deck, because the hardware is also being asked to run things at significantly high resolutions. But yeah, 800 to 1080p doesn't sound like that big of a difference until you actually do the math on how many pixels are being pushed around. But that screen is also double the refresh rate, capping out at 120 Hz, which is nice for flexibility's sake, but I don't think there'll be too many modern games that will be running anywhere near fast enough to actually use that refresh rate in any meaningful way. Still nice to have, and it's another tick on the front of the box they can put there to go, hey, this is better than the Steam Deck too. The screen is also a standard 16 by 9 aspect ratio, not the more laptop-y 16 by 10 the Steam Deck uses. The ROG Ally also lacks the touchpads on the Steam Deck, which are kind of a love or hate thing for a lot of people, but they do at least provide a lot of customizability options for control in games. And there's also just a single pair of back buttons, not the two you get on the Steam Deck. Dave2D also reported that even on his engineering prototype sample, it is significantly more quiet than the Steam Deck when it comes to fan noise, and fan noise being one of the more common criticisms I see leveled at the Steam Deck's hardware design. Unlike Valve, ASUS has also chosen the Xbox and Nintendo favoured asymmetric thumbstick layout for their integrated controller, a layout much more commonly used by PC gamers, just by the mere fact that Microsoft's own Xbox controller is kind of the de facto PC controller anyway. It is also my personal preference. All in all, this does seem like a pretty well thought out device, and with ASUS's extensive history of gaming laptops behind the engineering of it, I am expecting a very well put together device, very performant, very good cooling, and hopefully very good battery life, or even just slightly better than the Steam Decks would do. It is certainly the first truly mainstream competitor to Steam Deck, and it won't be the last, I promise you that. I would bet you. MSI is certainly working on something like this, right? It feels like something MSI would get into. But until this one, while there were dozens of other Me Too devices, they're all from very niche brands, even ones with, building reputations amongst nerds, like Anyo, for example. The average person have never heard of them. They have heard of ASUS, they have heard of ROG, and all those other options also come with sort of limited availability and distribution. You have to buy them on weirdo Chinese sites and stuff like that. ASUS, though, they'll be selling this thing globally, and through major retailers, and undoubtedly with a large marketing push behind it. This is a big deal in this growing space. Price competitiveness is the only major question at this point, really, and that's kind of a wait and see thing. And yes, before you say it, I do know about this thing, but this thing's not a real competitor. This thing's just for streaming, and it's overpriced. And no, just pass. This is a half-assed. No, thank you. This is rushed out the door. It wasn't thought through. This is not what we're after. Go away, you. Now, ASUS in general, through their ROG branding, have been trying for some time now, and I mean really trying, to get a foothold in the mobile gaming space. Until now, it's been trying to do so by leveraging Android phone gaming stuff through the ROG phone branding and devices. And speaking personally, I have, in fact, been offered review samples of the, I think, first 3 or 4 generations of these products. Like every time they announce one, I get an email, hey, would you like a review sample? And I go, yeah, no worries, I'll take a look at that. Seems really interesting. I mean, mobile gaming's not really my bag, but I'm happy to give it a fair go and see what it's all about. And every time I say yes, please, they failed to actually send me a device to review. It just never turned up. They're like, yeah, we'll get you one. And then nothing ever turns up. For years and years this has been going on. No idea what that's about. Maybe there's just like one person in ASUS who has the final sign approval who gets sample units and like they really hate me or something. I don't know. But I do remember very specifically the last time they offered me a review sample of the ROG phone. My exact words were, well, firstly I said, hey, every time you've offered me one it never turns up, but hey, I know you guys are trying to latch onto the phone gaming thing, and I'm sure that'll be great in some markets, but it is always such a compromised experience doing it like this. As soon as this line of devices gets a little bit less gimmicky, and you do this properly, with a dedicated integrated controller, not a snap-on thing, and a larger screen, and proper cooling that doesn't also rely on snap-on accessories that bulk up this thing and make it look ridiculous. And if you focus on real gaming experiences, not the nightmare of MTX abuse that is the mobile gaming market, I will be a lot more interested, I promise you. Now, I'm not claiming that I'm owed some credit for this product's existence, but you know, hey, maybe this time I can actually get a review sample, ASUS. How about that? This is what I was asking for the whole time. I guess we'll see. I mean, at least with this product, it's likely actually going to be available to Australians at all, unlike Valve, who to this day, still refuse to even sell the Steam Deck on our shores. What the hell is up with that, Valve? Jerks. Thanks for watching. I don't even need to ask you at this point. You're letting me know what you think in the down below, I expect. And thank you as always to the patrons scrolling above there. I am Blunty, and I will catch you next time.